The neon sign buzzed weakly above the entrance, its glow barely cutting through the thick night air. Whispering Pines Motel. The place looked as abandoned as the road leading to it, tucked away in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by towering pines that swayed like dark sentinels in the wind. It wasn't the kind of place that people stayed at by choice. It was a stopgap, a last resort for the desperate or the lost. I killed the engine and sighed, staring at the help wanted sign taped to the front window. This wasn't ideal, but I needed the money. And honestly, what could be so bad about a quiet night shift? Inside, the lobby smelled of old carpet and dust. The reception desk was empty, save for an old-fashioned bell and a single sheet of paper, folded neatly with my name scribbled across the top. Welcome to Whispering Pines Motel, Daniel. Read the rules carefully. Follow them exactly. If you break a rule, you're on your own. I frowned. The note wasn't signed, and I didn't remember seeing a manager when I applied. Still, curiosity got the best of me. I unfolded the paper. The rules of Whispering Pines Motel. Always keep the lobby lights on. Never turn them off no matter what. If the phone rings between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., do not answer it. Room 6 is permanently out of service. Do not check anyone into Room 6. Do not open Room 6. If a guest with no luggage asks for a room, tell them the motel is full. No exceptions. At exactly 3:33 a.m., you may hear knocking at the front door. Do not look outside. Do not open the door. If you see a man in a suit standing by the vending machine, do not acknowledge him. He is not real. At sunrise, you must close the guest ledger and lock it in the safe. If any names have appeared that you don't recognize, cross them out immediately. My stomach twisted as I read them over again. This had to be a joke. Some kind of hazing ritual for new employees. I glanced around the empty lobby, but there were no cameras, no snickering co-workers. Just the silence of the night pressing against the walls. I exhaled slowly. Fine. If they wanted to mess with me, I'd play along. The first few hours passed uneventfully. A couple checked in around 10:30 p.m., tired, irritable, the kind of travelers who wanted to be anywhere but here. I gave them a key to room 3 and sent them on their way. By midnight, I was starting to think the rules were nothing more than a scare tactic. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat behind the desk, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. Then, at exactly 12:13 a.m., I noticed something strange. The vending machine. I hadn't seen anyone come in, but there was a man standing beside it. He was too still, his posture unnaturally rigid. A black suit clung to his wiry frame, and his hands hung limply at his sides. My pulse quickened. Rule number 6. If you see a man in a suit standing by the vending machine, do not acknowledge him. He is not real. I swallowed hard. He was probably just a guest, right? Some businessman stopping for the night. But something about him felt wrong. His face was just slightly off, his eyes too large, his smile too wide, as if his skin was stretched too tightly over his skull. He hadn't moved at all. Hadn't blinked. I looked away. I pretended he wasn't there. I forced my focus back on my phone, my hands clammy against the plastic. Minutes crawled by. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shift. His head turned, slow and deliberate. Looking at me. I clenched my jaw, my breath shallow. My vision tunneled, and for a second I thought I was going to pass out. But then, without warning, he was gone. No footsteps. No sound. Just gone. I let out a shaky breath, gripping the counter for support. My heart was hammering so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. This isn't real. This isn't real. But deep down I knew better. And the night was far from over. 2 a.m. The phone call. I had just started to calm down when the phone rang. My entire body went cold. If the phone rings between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., do not answer it. The sound echoed through the empty motel, sharp and jarring. I stared at the receiver, paralyzed. Re-thing. My fingers twitched. Re-thing. My pulse pounded in my ears. It was just a phone. Just a stupid phone. Then on the fourth ring the answering machine clicked on. At first it was just static. Then, a faint, ragged breathing. I gritted my teeth, willing myself not to pick up. Then a voice. "You need to check room 6. My stomach dropped. The line went dead. 3:33 a.m. The knock at the door. I was still shaken when the clock struck 3:33 a.m. A slow, deliberate knock rattled the front door. I stiffened. Knock. 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 I squeezed my eyes shut. Don't look outside. Don't open the door. Knock. 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 The sound was deeper this time, almost like bones against wood. Then a voice. A woman's voice, soft, pleading. "Please let me in." My skin erupted in goosebumps. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. It was my mother's voice. She had been dead for 3 years. The woman at the door. Knock. 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 The sound rattled through the empty motel lobby, hollow and deliberate. "Daniel, please. Let me in." I gripped the edge of the desk, my fingernails pressing into the cheap wood. My mother's voice. Impossible. She had died 3 years ago in a car accident. I had seen her lifeless body, the cold stillness of her face in the casket. But the voice outside the motel door was hers, down to the softness in her tone, the slight hitch when she spoke my name. I squeezed my eyes shut. "Don't look outside. Don't open the door." "Danny," she whispered, using the childhood nickname I hadn't heard in years. "Sweetheart, I need you." My throat tightened. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to turn the lock, to swing open the door and embrace her. But it wasn't her. It couldn't be. I dug my fingers into my arms, forcing myself to stay put. The rule was clear. At exactly 3:33 a.m., you may hear knocking at the front door. Do not look outside. Do not open the door. The knocks grew more frantic. Bang. 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 I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Then, silence. The air in the room felt heavier, charged with something unseen. My ears rang in the absence of noise, my body still wound tight like a coiled spring. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then I heard the scratching. It started at the bottom of the door, slow and methodical, like nails dragging across wood. The sound slithered up, higher and higher, until it reached the peephole. A breathy exhale. A single, whispered word. "Liar." The air left my lungs. I stayed frozen until the motel clock struck 3:34 a.m. And just like that, the presence was gone. Room 6, the unseen guest. By the time I could move again, my limbs felt like lead. My mind raced through 1,000 explanations, none of them comforting. I checked the door, still locked. Nothing outside but the endless stretch of darkened parking lot. I didn't sleep after that. Instead, I spent the rest of my shift watching the security monitors, my eyes darting to every flicker of movement on the grainy black and white screens. Most of the guests were asleep, their doors firmly shut. But as I skimmed through the camera feeds, something caught my attention. Room 6. I frowned. According to the system, Room 6 was permanently out of service. I had made a mental note of it earlier, remembering the rule. Do not check anyone into Room 6. Do not open Room 6. And yet on the monitor the door to Room 6 was wide open. A heavy, suffocating stillness filled my chest. The hallway was empty. No movement. No guests wandering about. Just that one door, gaping open like a black hole. I told myself to ignore it. I told myself it was a glitch, a trick of the camera. Then the phone rang. The motel phone. The one that wasn't supposed to ring between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. I checked the clock. 3:45 a.m. I swallowed hard, my fingers hovering over the receiver. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to leave it alone. I picked it up. Silence. Then a voice, low, distorted, crawling beneath my skin. You need to check Room 6. Click. The thing inside. I stood outside Room 6, my heartbeat thrumming in my ears. The hallway was silent, the air thick with something wrong. The door was still ajar, revealing nothing but pitch-black darkness inside. I reached for my flashlight. My hands shook as I clicked it on, the beam cutting through the heavy gloom. The room was empty. No furniture. No bed. Just 4 bare walls and a floor covered in deep dark stains. A sour taste filled my mouth. Blood. No, something worse. The air smelled of rot, thick and putrid. I took a cautious step inside. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, a wave of nausea hit me, my stomach twisting violently. My skin prickled as if the air itself were pressing against me. Then I saw it. At first I thought it was a shadow. But as my flashlight swept over the farthest corner of the room, the darkness shifted. It wasn't a trick of the light. Something was there. A shape tall and unnatural, its form barely distinguishable from the surrounding blackness. It moved, its limbs too long, too jagged. Its head twisted at an impossible angle as if listening. Then it spoke. Not with words but with a sound, a deep guttural clicking that rattled through my bones. I stumbled backward, my body screaming for me to run. The thing lunged. I turned and bolted, barely making it out as the door slammed shut behind me with a deafening crack. I hit the hallway floor, gasping for breath. My flashlight flickered in my hand, the beam shaking wildly as I pointed it at the door. It was closed. Locked. The hallway was silent again. I scrambled to my feet, my entire body trembling. I didn't care what the rules said. I needed to get out of here. I grabbed my keys, my jacket, ready to run. But when I reached the lobby, the guest ledger was open. A name had been added. A name I didn't recognize. The ink was still wet. Room 6. The ledger and the forgotten guest. The name in the ledger stared back at me, the ink still glistening under the dim lobby lights. Elias Richter, Room 6. My breath hitched. I hadn't checked anyone into Room 6. No one was supposed to be in there. I gripped the edges of the book, flipping back through previous pages. Room numbers, check-in times, everything seemed normal. But then I noticed something strange. The farther back I went, the more names I didn't recognize. Alma Grayson, Room 6. Joseph Crane, Room 6. Samuel Tuck, Room 6. All written in the same neat, precise handwriting. None of them checked out. My stomach twisted. How long had this been happening? A gust of wind rattled the lobby windows, making the old motel sign flicker outside. I forced myself to breathe, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. I needed answers. I needed to find out who, or what, was staying in Room 6. The forgotten records. The office behind the front desk was a mess of old receipts, faded motel brochures and stacks of yellowed paper. A filing cabinet stood against the far wall, rusted and dented. I yanked open the top drawer, flipping through dusty records dating back decades. Nothing on Room 6. I dug deeper, my fingers leaving streaks in the thick dust. Then, at the very bottom of the drawer, I found a folder labeled Room 6 Incidents. My hands shook as I opened it. The first page was a handwritten note, dated August 12, 1979. Elias Richter checked into Room 6 at 10:45 p.m. Complained of hearing whispers in the walls. Vanished overnight. No signs of forced entry. Room found locked from the inside. Personal belongings untouched. Ledger updated the next morning with a new name. Case unresolved. I flipped to the next page. Alma Grayson, checked in on November 3, 1986. Reported scratching under the bed. Vanished overnight. Next morning, a new name appeared in the ledger. Room still locked from the inside. Case unresolved. My breath came in shallow gasps. The pattern was unmistakable. People who stayed in Room 6 disappeared. Their names appeared in the ledger. And then, someone new took their place. The most recent entry chilled me to the bone. February 23, 2025, Daniel Hayes. Room 6. I staggered back, my head spinning. That was today. And that was my name. The man in the vending machine. I slammed the file shut, my hands clammy. The motel felt different now, like it was watching me. Then I saw him. The man in the suit. He was standing by the vending machine again, just like before. Motionless. Staring. His face wasn't right. Stretched too tight, eyes too large, mouth curled into an unnatural grin. Don't acknowledge him. He is not real. I squeezed my eyes shut. This isn't happening. When I opened them, he was closer. He hadn't moved. But he was closer. The vending machine's dim fluorescent light flickered over his unnaturally long fingers, twitching at his sides. A slow, grating sound filled the air. The vending machine was dispensing something. The coil turned and a single crumpled piece of paper fell into the tray. I didn't want to reach for it. But my body moved before my brain could stop it. I picked up the paper, my fingers trembling. One word was written in black ink. Run. A sharp, static hum filled my ears. The vending machine light buzzed violently, flickering in and out. And then the man was gone. The hallway of echoes. My instincts screamed at me to get out. But something inside me, some morbid, irrational curiosity, pushed me toward room 6 instead. The hallway stretched before me, longer than it should have been. My footsteps echoed, though I was barely making a sound. The air felt thick, pressing against my skin like a living thing. Then I heard it. Soft, rhythmic tapping from inside room 6. Tap. 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 I gritted my teeth. My hand hovered over the rusted doorknob, my pulse hammering. The rule was clear: do not open room 6. But my name was in that ledger now. The motel had already claimed me. I turned the knob. The door swung open with a groaning creak. Inside, the room was different. No bloodstains. No furniture. Just a single wooden chair in the center of the room, and a mirror directly in front of it. A tall, cracked mirror, its surface covered in deep, jagged fractures. I took a hesitant step forward. The moment I did, the door slammed shut behind me. The tapping sound grew louder. Not from the walls. From the mirror. Tap. 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 I forced myself to look. And I saw myself. But it wasn't me. The reflection stared back at me with black, hollow eyes, its lips curling into a slow, unnatural grin. Then it raised its hand and knocked against the glass. Tap. 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 I stumbled back, my pulse skyrocketing. The reflection's mouth moved, though no sound came out. Then in the silence I heard the voice. Soft, breathy. Let me in. The mirror shattered. The reflection that walks. The mirror exploded into 1,000 jagged shards, the force of the shattering glass sending me stumbling backward. My breath hitched. My pulse pounded in my ears. But the worst part wasn't the mirror breaking. It was the thing that stepped out of it. Me. Or rather, something wearing my face. It was perfectly identical at first. But then, the small differences became sickeningly clear. Its eyes were black pits, gaping voids where human pupils should be. Its skin was too smooth, almost waxy, like something sculpted but not quite right. And then it smiled. Not a normal smile. A slow, stretching, impossibly wide grin, its lips pulling back too far, exposing a row of needle-thin teeth. I couldn't move. The air in room 6 was heavy, thick with a cloying, humid stench of rot. The thing wearing my face took a step forward, its movements unnatural, like it was learning how to use my body. Its head tilted. It spoke. You left the door open, Daniel. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But my body wouldn't move. I had let it in. The chase. I forced myself to act. Move. Move. I turned and lunged for the door, gripping the handle, locked. No. No, no, no. Behind me, the sound of bare feet dragging against the floor made my stomach lurch. It was coming. I threw my weight against the door. The knob twisted under my frantic grip, finally giving way. I stumbled into the hallway, heart hammering. The motel's dim, flickering lights cast eerie shadows against the walls. The hallway was longer now, stretching on endlessly in both directions. I turned just in time to see it step out of room 6. Its smile widened. Then it ran. I had never seen anything move that fast. I bolted. My legs burned, my lungs screamed for air as I tore down the impossible hallway. The motel walls warped and shifted, stretching and twisting like they were alive. Behind me, I heard the rapid slap of feet against tile. It was catching up. The air around me grew colder, my breath turning to mist as I sprinted toward the front lobby. I saw the door almost there. Then, just as I reached the exit, everything went black. The forgotten room. I woke up lying on something cold. My head throbbed. My body felt strange, like I wasn't fully inside it. Slowly, my eyes adjusted to the dim glow of a single flickering light bulb. I wasn't in the motel lobby. I was in a room I had never seen before. The walls were made of old, rotting wood. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. A single chair sat in the center of the room. And then I realized I couldn't move. I was sitting in the chair, tied to it. Panic surged through me. I struggled against the restraints, but they were too tight, thick, coarse rope cutting into my wrists. A sound broke the silence. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming closer. The door creaked open and the air left my lungs. It was me. Or rather, the thing wearing my face. It stepped forward, tilting its head like a curious predator. It wasn't smiling anymore. "You're not supposed to be here, Daniel." Its voice was wrong now, deeper, layered, like multiple voices speaking at once. I yanked at the ropes, my pulse hammering. The thing sighed. "You let me in. You broke the rule. Now I get to be you." It crouched in front of me, staring into my face. Its pupils shifted like something crawling beneath the surface. It leaned in close, so close I could feel its breath against my skin. Then, in a whisper, it said, "And you? You get to stay here." The wall of names. It stepped away, reaching toward the far wall. That's when I saw them. The names. Hundreds, no thousands of names etched into the wood. Some were faded. Some were freshly carved. And at the bottom, I saw the newest addition. Daniel Hayes. My name. Carved deep into the rotten wood, like all the others before me. The final night. My name was carved into the wall. Daniel Hayes. Etched deep into the wood alongside countless others, all the people who had vanished in room 6 before me. I felt sick. Trapped. The thing wearing my face stood in the doorway, watching me with its hollow black eyes. It smiled again. "They always struggle at first," it said, voice slithering like something not meant for human ears. "But it doesn't matter. Soon you'll forget too." Forget? My body tensed. No. No, I couldn't forget. I wasn't going to end up like the others. I had to fight. The reflection's truth. I yanked against the ropes again, this time harder. The coarse fibers cut into my wrists, but I ignored the pain. The thing in my shape took a step closer, shaking its head. Mocking me. "It won't work, Daniel." It tapped the name on the wall. "You belong to the motel now." The words sent a chill through my spine. I didn't belong to this place. I wasn't part of the motel. I clenched my fists. Think. Think. The names on the wall. The ledger. The fact that every victim had been replaced. It hit me like a freight train. This thing wasn't just wearing my face. It was stealing my existence. That's what room 6 did. It pulled people in, erased them, and replaced them with reflections. But if that was true, that meant there was a way to undo it. The breaking point. I stopped struggling. Instead, I spoke. "You're not real." The thing's grin faltered. I narrowed my eyes. "You only exist because the motel lets you. But what happens if I take that away?" It tilted its head. Amused. "And how will you do that?" My heart pounded. I didn't know for sure, but I had a theory. This thing could only replace me if I accepted it. I glanced around the decaying wooden room, the flickering light bulb swaying from the ceiling. And then I saw it. The mirror shards. A dozen jagged pieces from the mirror it had stepped out of, still scattered across the floor. I gritted my teeth. I had one chance. One way to end this. I lunged, yanking my arms as hard as I could. The rope dug into my skin, then snapped. The thing's smile dropped. I grabbed the biggest shard of glass and turned on my reflection. I take myself back. And I drove the mirror shard into my own palm. The motel's collapse. The moment the glass pierced my skin, the world shifted. The air in the room cracked, like something fracturing reality itself. The motel shuddered, the walls splitting apart, revealing something endless and black behind them. The thing that had stolen my face let out a horrific guttural scream. It was fading. Its skin peeled away like burning paper, revealing only emptiness underneath. It clutched at its face, trying to hold itself together. No, you can't. But it was too late. The room collapsed inward, the motel's walls crumbling like sand. The names on the wall began to disappear, one by one, until there was only mine. I gasped, blood dripping from my palm. Then I woke up. The morning after. I was lying on the lobby floor. Sunlight poured through the motel windows. The motel was empty. The vending machine still flickered in the corner. The old bell at the front desk sat untouched. The dusty ledger book lay closed, its pages blank. Room SIX's door was wide open. But inside there was nothing. No furniture. No bloodstains. No mirror. Just an empty, rotting space. The curse was gone. I had survived. Epilogue. The last entry. I packed my things. I wasn't staying another night. As I turned to leave, I noticed something off about the front desk. The ledger. It was still blank. But as I watched, a single name appeared. Not mine. A new one. James Carter, room 6. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. The motel was still hungry. And it had already found its next victim. The end.